in your brain, you're in the nerds domain. Come on in, it's about to begin.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Nerds Domain podcast, or welcome back to Masks of Nyarlathotep. Depends on which the feed you're listening to. This week we're going to talk to an old Nerds Domain company that was on the Nerds Domain podcast a while back. And they've got some new exciting stuff coming out. But it also ties directly into our Masks of Nyarlathotep role-playing campaign that you can find over on that feed as well. So I thought that this would be a great one to put on both. So say hello to John Houlihan from Modiphius. John.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, so John, we're going to talk about Achtung, Cthulhu. You guys did a Kickstarter, 4.5 years ago, give or take?
Yeah, that's right.
And you guys put out, the base book and the Keeper's Guide, and then some setting material and a couple of adventures, as well as some, accessory dossier stuff that was really kind of great. And that was just for the Call of Cthulhu stuff, and then you also did Savage Worlds and 1940, and you did a bunch of other...
There's a fate conversion and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so, you put out several books, and... we've been using them. I think they're fantastic. Kind of highlight what all was in that, and what we got out of those books that set the core for what Achtung Cthulhu is right now. Well,
of course, you're right. We started with the Keepers and Investigators Guide. Those were the first big sort of source books for the original Kickstarter, and Achtung Cthulhu was the first, of course, first big project. Which Modiphius undertook, a very successful Kickstarter, and it's kind of, rolled on ever since. It's one of the core games of the company. I guess over probably the last couple of years, as the company's grown and expanded, and we've added in licenses like Conan and now Star Trek and things like that, Achtung Cthulhu's kind of taken a little bit of a back seat, but since I kind of took over towards the end of last year, I've been looking to reinvigorate the line and maybe bring it forward with some new adventures, some new campaigns, and basically provide some stuff for players. It's not to say there's not plenty out there already. We added on guides to North Africa, the Pacific, the Eastern Front. There's great adventures like... Sarah Newton's 0 Point campaign, two big campaigns with Shadows of Atlantis, which sort of started before the war, and Assault on the Mountains of Madness, which was the sort of epic finale to Achtung Cthulhu, and a bunch of other sort of kind of source books and fiction in between, Terrors of the Secret War, Elder Godlike, a few crossover series like that. So it's kind of quite a fully featured universe, but my brief is to kind of bring back some more stories and content, and kind of give players who maybe have put it down for a little while with all the other fun stuff happening, give them something more to do.
Yeah, and you even wrote some fantastic fiction for the line. You wrote Trollborg Monstrosities, which I love. I think I read it 3 or 4 times. It's really solid.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's very kind. I followed it up with a couple of 3 sequels now. We've got the Crystal Void, which is cheekily entitled Mon Dieu Cthulhu, which takes the action back to Napoleonic times. Then we've got Tomb of the Eons, which is another World War II adventure, and I did the first full novel, which was released latter half of last year, sort of Decemberish time, which is Before the Flood, which takes the action forward in time to around 2033 in a flooded post-apocalyptic Britain under the yoke of the Deep Ones. And so there's plenty more stuff in that line.
Excellent. Well, so you guys, you've done a bunch of setting stuff, and there was an announcement of the Living campaign that just went out, which I've already downloaded the first bit of. Tell us a little bit about what we can expect from the Living campaign itself and how that's going to tie into the future releases.
Oh, sure thing. Well, The Living campaign is written by John Dodd, who's a fabulous sci-fi and fantasy writer, and it's the first episode of a Living campaign. So we want to release episodic episodes, as if that's a thing, probably once every 2 to 3 months. They will all kind of be separate standalone adventures. But they will tie into a bigger overarching storyline, which will eventually feed through to something which I'm writing at the moment, which is our big Forest of Fear campaign, which is set during the Ardennes in late 1944, the Battle of the Bulge. We probably have around about 4 episodes, maybe 5 episodes in the Living campaign. And as each builds up, you'll get more and more clues which point you towards mysterious goings on in the Ardennes in late 44, and that will all be collected in a huge campaign book. But it's really exciting. I think it's great to be able to kind of give players this kind of feedback, and also to say, of course, that we will be getting feedback from players after each adventure, which will go on to kind of subsequently influence the next adventure in the series as well. But the first one, A Light on the Mountain, is set in 1943. Without giving too much away, a set of Allied investigators are summoned to an airfield a secret airfield in Britain, and their mission is to observe a test flight using a revolutionary new propulsion system, which could have the potential to transport troops across the world in the blink of an eye. But things haven't really been going. There's something not quite right about this project, Section M feel, and they want the investigators to kind of keep an eye on this project. And naturally, of course, things take a turn for the worse fairly rapidly, and the investigators are hurled into a dark mystery and have to unravel a conspiracy as old or as pitiless as the mountains themselves.
Yeah, I read the first intro for that, and it starts off with a very, like hush-hush, like, what do you call it, spy themed kind of feel to, hey, go check this out. There's some guys. We don't talk about why we're here. So I really like that intro and that lead up. I haven't read the rest of it yet because I don't know if I want to run it or not. So I want to hold off to find out what I want to do.
Oh, sure.
So. You mentioned the 2 campaigns that are already out, and then the Forest of Fear. Are there further plans beyond that, or are we building up towards the Forest of Fear, and that's going to be the big one right now that we're looking at?
Yeah, well, the Forest of Fear will be the kind of culmination of the Living campaign. But one of the things I kind of realised when I started having a look at the line was we've got this great beginning with Shadows of Atlantis, and we've got this great end with Assault on the Mountains of Madness. So what I've been developing is a kind of canon timeline for the Secret War, which runs all the way from 1940 and the Battle of Britain to 1945, which is after the fall of Berlin and the final fall of Nachtwolf's base called Fenrir's Seat, which is in Switzerland. But I've got kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 major scenarios or campaigns that I like to do, and I can tease you with a few of them if you like.
Yeah.
One based around the Battle of Britain. One called The Serpent and the Sands, which is set in the Western Desert. One based around D-Day, and there'll be one called Ashes of Berlin as well, which will be set in the kind of fall of Berlin as the Russians are closing in and the Allies are closing in, and I think that would be a kind of interesting climax to the land war before we go across to Assault on the Mountains of Madness, which takes the action up to Antarctica.
Excellent, yeah, and we just in Masks of Nyarlathotep we just kicked off the Shadows of Atlantis super adventure because it's not a small thing. There's a lot there.
That's right.
And they just met their first contact in Vienna, and we're going to see how that works out. I have to say that the Achtung Cthulhu line itself is very detailed for the times, which a lot of the Cthulhu stuff I've seen is like that, but this is very specific to go so far as to explain the differences between Austria and Germany during the time that it's Nazi Austria, and what the Austrians are doing to rebel without actually picking up arms or doing anything, and that kind of that flavoring is very solid there and helps kind of guide the adventurers and help them understand what's going on and see the world in a brighter in a wider fashion, other than it's just Nazi Austria. It's just like being in Germany, because it's very different.
Sure, yeah. I think one of the things I like. I mean, I'm a quite keen student of history myself, but one of the things I really love about the Achtung Cthulhu world is it's a really rich. All the writers have contributed to it are really steeped in the history and are very keen on kind of quite historical detail. And actually, you can learn quite a bit about the actual war from some of the Achtung Cthulhu source books. There really is, a real deep love and appreciation for the Second World War. I think that really does come through in quite a lot of the writing.
Absolutely. So, the two main villains groups that we see in this, I mean, the Nazis are kind of an overarching deal.
Yeah.
We get to see Nachtwolf, which you mentioned earlier, and the Black Sun, which are they're two sides I see as of the same coin. They're very much steeped in promoting the Nazi plan, but in their own way, either through mysticism or technology. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you've got it spot on there. I mean, the way we kind of think about it, the Black Sun are the guys who are using or trying to use various elements of the mythos to aid them in their war aims. They're very closely connected through their exarch Richard Weissler to Nyarlathotep, and he's obsessed with bringing the actual Black Sun to shine its unholy light on Earth, whereas Nachtwolf are much more technology focused. As you're right, but they search for kind of Atlantean technology, which is powered by this blau crystal or blue crystal, and what they're headed by Mina Wolf. But what they don't quite realise is that all the blue crystal that they're collecting from various sites all over the world, the Atlantean sites where it's to be found, all that blue crystal is actually part of the mind of a mythos entity called Daolith, which as they slowly accumulate it together, his mind is getting put back together and his influence is kind of growing in Nachtwolf as well. But they are much more focused on kind of technology, and they see technology as the way to win the war, and they're intense rivals as well. So as well as the fight against the Allies, Section M and Majestic, who are their kind of counterparts, they're constantly battling each other for power and influence within the Third Reich.
Excellent. Yeah, and so in introducing my players to this, they've met both Nachtwolf and Black Sun, and I don't think they quite realize that they're two different groups, but they are very, very solidly two separate groups that are very different in how they're doing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just real quick, there was also an announcement recently that the Star Trek Adventures, their living campaign started as well. So something similar to what you guys are doing with Achtung.
Sure.
And you guys Modiphius itself has not just Conan. You guys have a lot of games and licenses that are out there, including like Space 1889, which I'm a huge fan of. I love that. But then you've got Mutant, the Mutant Year Zero stuff, and Mutant Chronicles. That's what I was looking for. Mutant Chronicles, yeah. Mindjammer, and Dust Adventures, and you guys are kind of have a solid line where 4.5 years ago it was, hey, here's Achtung Cthulhu, we're going to try and see what we can do with this.
It's amazing how it's kind of grown so quickly. I mean, Chris is obviously the founder of the company, and he puts so much energy and effort into into acquiring these great licenses, and we're all, we sit back and we're like, wow, we've got Conan, and we've got, we've recently announced Fallout as well, and Star Trek now, which has been absolutely crazy. I mean, the demand from Star Trek fans is incredible, and the Living campaign kicks off. Some really good writers on board, a guy called Dayton Ward and Scott Pearson, who are both kind of well known in the Star Trek world, and there's campaigns for original series and next generation players, and that's available right now. You can just go sign up, and mere minutes later you'll be involved in some some great Star Trek action, which is great because I'm a huge Star Trek fan myself. So that's going to be really interesting. It's kind of an extension. We've been the guys over on that team have been playtesting it with four different ships, and the Living campaign is going to be a kind of extension of that initial playtest. But it's looking great. We've got some. The miniatures arrived in the office last week, and they look amazing. And I think that Borg cube is going to be people are just crazy for it.
Yeah, I had to talk myself out of purchasing it. It was a little bit on the high end for my budget, but with everything that comes in it, it's like I looked at it and I was like, I can't justify spending that. But then I looked at what was in it and I was like, how can I not justify spending all that? Because it's around $500 US.
Sure.
But it's everything. It's dice and minis and maps and books and everything you'd need, and then it comes in a fantastic looking cube.
Yeah, it kind of makes your nerd senses tingle. Even me, I'm like, wow, hopefully I'll get some staff discount on my one. I hope.
Absolutely. So we also have, in just a couple of days, Gen Con coming up. Big deal here in the States. I know it's a big deal kind of everywhere, but I'm in Indianapolis, so it makes it even bigger deal for us.
Right.
Anything from Achtung or just from Modiphius as a whole that we should be looking at there that we can pick up or we should check out?
Oh yeah, well the guys will be over, and if you give me just 2 secs, I will tell you exactly where they're going to be. They are at stand 2461 in Hall G. So swing on by and say hello to everyone. I think we'll have the lot. There'll be Conan, there'll be Star Trek, there'll be all the Achtung Cthulhu books, board games, dice, minis, the whole works. So swing by. I haven't been because unfortunately I'm not going this year. So I've not been exactly sulking, but I've been letting the guys get on with it because I've got plenty to do myself. But yeah, I know they've been making big preparations to get there, and I think the Star Trek stuff is going to be the hottest stuff, but Conan and all that kind of thing will be there as well. So and they're great guys. They're always happy to chat gaming and games. So just swing on by and say hello. You'll get to meet all the guys out there.
Yeah. So big stuff coming from Achtung. It all sounds. I'm really excited about the Living campaign. I love Living campaigns as a whole, just kind of something that you guys that can be put out that is smaller and bite-sized that you can deal with as you want to, instead of honestly, Shadows of Atlantis is a little intimidating.
Yeah, sure. One thing I should mention, which will be available in the next couple of months, which I know a lot of fans have been asking about, is a new 0 Point adventure from the excellent Sarah Newton. It's called Code of Honor. It's set in 1943, and it's set in Istanbul, the city of spies. So it's kind of very espionage focused, but with some really intriguing events to explore. Lots of spying contacts, high, kind of. It's almost got that sort of James Bondy feel, Indiana Jones feel. But with a suitably epic climax as well, and that will probably be available kind of September, October time. So not a huge campaign in the same sort of league as the books like Assault on the Mountains of Madness, but a really fascinating, intriguing adventure that I think fans will really enjoy.
Excellent, yeah, and 0 Point is from what I've seen of what's already come out is really good. a little brutal, but it is it is the war, so that's exactly what it should be.
Absolutely. And I think what else can I tell you about? We've been working away on the background in on Achtung, Cthulhu, the audio adventure as well, which we've got a pilot done, and that may be released shortly. And we're currently having episodes 2 and 3 are being written, and we should be looking to record those probably in the next month or so, and then we'll probably release the pilot so that everyone can have a listen to it, and then so episodes 2 and 3 will be following on hot from that as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't know that was coming. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, you got. I think you might have the exclusive on that one. That's. I don't think that. Yeah. But yeah, it should be on the way. It should be. I think we'll be doing it on Audible if I'm. It may be a download, but yeah, it's really good. It's great to have the these characters like Deadman and Audrey and some of the other Achtung Cthulhu heroes who you've read about, but then suddenly have them spring to life with some great actors as well. We've got some actors on board, so yeah, so that should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be great, because I've always maintained that the art in the Cthulhu, the Achtung Cthulhu books are phenomenal. So, like, every piece of art really grabs hold of what I want to see, and so hearing that same sort of passion go into an audio form, that sounds great. I'm really excited about that.
Great.
And I would feel a little remiss if I didn't mention that you guys also do the skirmish game for Achtung Cthulhu as well, and
that's
a lot of that available on the website already.
Yeah, that's right. That was a chap called Matthew Hope who did all the mechanics for Dystopian Legions, which is what the rule set is based on. He wrote all the kind of mechanics, and I wrote all the sort of colour and storyline and some of the mission design for that. And it was real good fun, actually. It was real good fun. But we got a new, an excellent new war games manager who's coming on board, who's going to be kind of taking over the mantle for Achtung Cthulhu Skirmish, and a few other games we have got in the pipeline, like Fallout Tactics as well. So I think there'll be more coming on that score as well. We got one campaign book out, which was called Rise of the Black Sun, but hopefully we'll be back and doing some more mission design and a few more minis for that before the year is out.
Excellent. Yeah, and I love the minis on that. They all look really great. Or terribly terrifying, depending.
They sure could give you nightmares, right?
So. Absolutely. All right. Well, John, anything else you want to touch on about Achtung or Modiphius as a whole?
I think we covered most things. I would just say one thing we've been working on just a little while. It'll be a free release. It should be out in the next month or so, which is an update to our Tales of the Crucible, which was originally the stories of kind of like 6 of the Achtung Cthulhu heroes, but we've kind of expanded that. We statted them up. We've given some more expanded stories, so that'll be coming. It'll be a free download. We like to give away some free stuff too. You'll be able to draw people like Professor Deadman, Carter, Arian Dubois, all those guys. If you want to bring them into your campaign, they'll be there and waiting for you. And new ones like Mad Jack McMasters as well. He's a particular favourite of mine, based on a guy from a British guy in the Second World War, who was the man who got the last recorded longbow kill. He actually shot a German guy with his longbow during the Second World War, and this guy Mad Jack McMasters is based on him. So yeah, look out for that. That'll be a free download. I think probably September time. So yeah, that should be fun.
Excellent. Well, real quick, it's Modiphius.net, Modiphius.net. You guys can go there. Looks like you can pick up the PDF of the Investigator and Keeper's Guide for really pretty cheap. $6.99 for Investigators, $10.99 for the Keeper's Guide. I think they're well worth the price. And that can get you very much started in Achtung Cthulhu. And there's a lot of support material available as well. Where do we find you on Facebook and Twitter?
You can we're at Modiphius. We're at Modiphius.com as well. The .net is the kind of website for the store, and Modiphius.com has got all the info and sign up material. There's a Modiphius Facebook group. We're on Twitter. If you want to get hold of me, I'm at John H259, JOHNH259 on Twitter. It's probably the easiest way, or john@modiphius.com. And I always like hearing from fans, so write me up or hit me up or send me a mail and let me know what you're doing. If you'd like to read any fiction, all my stuff's on Amazon, so dive on in.
Excellent. Well, definitely Modiphius is a company to keep an eye on. They are serious about what they do, and they're grabbing some great licenses. Especially the two last ones, Star Trek and Fallout, have been fantastic. So definitely suggest checking those guys out. Otherwise, you can find us all our normal places, and we will talk to you guys real soon.